Well, Phyllis Faber is at it again, lying on behalf of animal agriculture. I first became familiar with Phyllis Faber when I made the Shame of Point Rays many years ago, finding her quotes that were inaccurate and blatantly in favor of ranching. And she serves on the board of MALT, RAGG, Resilient Agriculture Group, and probably some other ones, conservation this, conservation that. They all blend together because they are all meaningless. They now just use words like conservation to mislead the public. Unless we're specifically talking about conserving a group of people's extremely unsustainable way of making a living. That's the only form of conservation taking place here. Now, in this quote in a recent article from the Pacific Sun, Faber says that the easements for malt are opportunities to purchase development rights on private parcels so that natural ecosystems can flourish and be sustained. Miss Faber, my natural history and ecology of California professor would love for you to take herself and her class on a personal tour of one of these ecosystems that is flourishing. In fact, I'd like to know which ones come to mind when you make a statement of that sort. Do you know what an ecosystem is? Do you know what an ecosystem is? Because someone of your mindset probably pictures an ecosystem as a cow eating introduced vegetation, shitting on the ground, using up all the water in California, and then starting the system all over again. There's no room for natural ecosystems in animal agriculture. In fact, I've come to realize that the words, the phrases, the terms protected land, private land, public land, all mean the same thing: land for grazing. Perhaps the most basic issue with Measure A is this idea that it's necessary in order to prevent land owned by ranchers from being developed. It's already not allowed to be developed because of work that conservationists like Martin Griffin did a long time ago. This idea that it's necessary to keep paying people to do what they already chose to do as a living, in addition to the money they make from that industry, just so that they won't destroy the land, is ridiculous for many reasons. One of those reasons is that these people get to walk around being heralded as stewards of the land and having a connection with the land, but we're also under a never-ending threat of them selling it to developers. This sounds like people that are ruled by money to me, and no matter how much money they get, no matter how much money they've made, no matter how much their industry has brought them, no matter how much the taxpayers have given them, no matter how much they've gotten from government subsidies and bailouts or easements, it's never enough because they are founded in unsustainable businesses that are a constant battle against nature. These businesses are the rape of natural ecosystems, and we're supposed to clap for these people. Now, I'll go a step further, because when the Spoletas sold one of their many parcels in Marin County, multiple preservationists tried to buy the land. And not only are you not allowed to develop that land, but you are supposed to continue agriculture on that land. And that's not because Measure A saved that land. That's because Martin Griffin prevented that land from being subdivided. I almost left out an important detail because I mentioned that development wasn't allowed through subdivisions and that agriculture was a requirement of purchasing the land. But restoring the land to its natural state wasn't allowed because of the MALT easement that says it has to remain agricultural land. And I've got to use that as an opportunity to point out that nature and agriculture are not the same. To those of us who live in cities or whatever and are completely disconnected from nature, maybe you can't see the difference. But pasture used to raise commodity animals is a long way from being nature or a natural ecosystem. So how sad is it that you're not even allowed to restore nature? You're not even allowed to restore nature as a part of these MALT easements. And Phyllis Faber is talking about healthy ecosystems. Healthy ecosystems aren't even allowed. Good God. Now, that land that they sold already received an easement of millions of dollars. And then they sold it anyway. And this article points out that these ranchers take the easements and go and buy more land. So that just reconfirms what I thought I saw happening with that Spoletta Ranch. And this goes back to the history of the founding of Point Reyes National Seashore, when the ranchers, when given our tax dollars to give up their land and allow Point Reyes National Seashore to become a national seashore, well, instead of preparing to move on, they went and bought up land and just expanded their empire. And then after hiring lobbyists, managed to not only keep land that they were paid for, but get more land and get us taxpayers to continue to pay the operation fees of all of the businesses that they're running on all of this land. Back to the ecosystems. Please take a walk on ranch land and tell me what about it says healthy ecosystem to you. What, the absence of a apartment building? Like, is your vision of the world so limited that it's either a building or nature? You don't understand that ranching is just another industry that is not nature just because it's not filled with buildings? Don't call yourself the most intelligent species if your brain only works in that limited capacity. Please. Look no further than Point Reyes National Seashore as a prime example that wildlife aren't allowed. They aren't welcome. Nature is not welcome in the realm of agriculture, especially animal agriculture. And that's inside of a national seashore, much less privately owned land. I challenge you to walk through malted land. When I say malted land, I mean privately owned ranches that receive millions of dollars of bonus money from private and public funds, supposedly to do good things for that land. I challenge you to walk across the expanse of these parcels and point out anything good. Point out a resurgence of deer or elk or coyotes or wolves or hawks, especially native plants. I mean, I'm willing to bet top dollar that the majority of the population doesn't know a native plant from an invasive plant. I do now. I learned. And what I learned is that there are no native plants out there, with the exception of the handful of trees that the ranchers didn't kill while they were converting beautiful, dynamic California into a pasture. Generation after generation, decades of exploiting the land, raping California, exploiting natural habitat, converting natural habitat for personal gain and personal profit wasn't enough. I mean, if you didn't make enough money after doing that, after raping California and raping the taxpayer, then get the fuck out of here, because you're not a good business owner. Why is it our responsibility to support people who don't know how to run a sustainable business? I mean, they call it sustainable, but it's the exact opposite. Stop being a goddamn drain on both the taxpayer and the planet, you lying pieces of shit. And if, after all this time, making money at the expense of both people and the planet, your final gesture can't be to restore the land, we still have to worry about you selling to developers after all that. The least you could do as your swan song is to do something good, do something decent. Be like, hey, look, we destroyed this place. We just fucked it to hell. And we made a lot of money. And you know what? Our legacy, we would like it to be something better. We're going to go ahead and restore this land. We're going to bring back nature. We're going to bring back some healthy ecosystems here. Hell no. Nope. We got to live under the shadow of these people selling to developers. Which, by the way, is what happens all over California. We see urban sprawl. We see these ever-expanding strip malls and neighborhoods built on agricultural land. Well, who the hell do you think owned that agricultural land that's sold to the developers? You act like these people have a gun to their heads and they have no choice but to make the immoral, greedy decision. They have a choice. They could do something good. They're choosing not to. And you call them stewards. I got to cover my bases also as far as the healthy looking land, because these ranchers apparently keep Photoshop opportunities in a couple of parts. I mean, they have such massive land holdings. There's the occasion in which they don't graze every last bit of it. So when the photographer comes out, or Autobahn or any other greenwashing pieces of shit come out to make a film, well, they've got a little section that they can go take the rancher and stand him in front of and make it look like the land is healthy. All you have to do is go out there yourself to find out the truth. You don't have to believe me or them. Go look. Instead of spreading lies based on your indoctrination and inability to think for yourself, go look. Go look.